Welcome to the Father Focus podcast.
Father Focus. Check.
Why are we talking about this? Why does it matter?
So shaping your kids into powerful people.
Bro, let that brother fly. Check. All right, let's go.
You ready?
All right, let's go. I was messing. Thanks so much for joining with us today's episode on Father Focus, and we are excited to have each and every one of you here. I'm joined today with my two co-hosts, Nathan and Jermaine. Guys, what's up? How y'all doing?
What's up?
What up, my friends? Good afternoon to you.
Awesome. Hey, well, listen, I'll tell you all what I have been up to. We just finished up baseball. I got 3 of my 5 kids in baseball right now. And I'll be honest with you. So out of the 3 teams, we got first place in 2 different teams. My team that I've been coaching for 5 years, we finally wrapped up with a W and got the, championship trophy. And then Caroline, which is funny because, we had the best team. Caroline had the best team in her league, and Maggie, their team, literally only won 1 game. They were awful. So they need some work. I'm like, wow, we're coming up with trophies. She got nothing. So how about y'all? Your kids, everybody good?
Yeah, I'm good. My kids are good.
Kids. Yeah.
Your kids are good? Yeah, my kids are good too.
My kids are better than your kids.
Okay. So yeah, my kids are, not no sports yet. We got flag football coming up. My son's going to be playing in. Keep saying he wants to play football. I keep trying to emphasize other things, but I said, all right, so we're going to start getting him ready for that. I think my daughter.
This is neither here nor there, but I used to throw bombs to Nathan.
He did. Yeah. And I used to catch them.
He would catch them as long as I didn't overthrow him.
Yeah. Well, as your kids, learn to play sports, if they need a good coach, just fly me in, and I'll definitely help them. Because
here we go.
Teaching your kids, but
his fee's only $1,000 an hour. It's not. It's very reasonable.
Well, that's the friends and family discount. If you're out there on the podcast world and you're looking, it's a little bit higher than that. But
well, they get Father Focus discount. So there we go.
Right.
Hey, listen again. Yeah. So again, thank each and every one of you for being a part of this today. And we're going to jump into this episode and on this topic. We're actually talking about the intentional father. We're going to be wrapping some things up. But today we're going to talk about how to stay motivated as a dad, and even beyond that, because we know there are a lot of dads out there, but not all those dads are intentional. And so we want to encourage you, and even, Lord willing, equip you to be that intentional dad that does things with intentionality. There's a goal at the end, and we'll just kind of start off with that. And I got a question. I just want to say, how do you guys stay intentional? How do you stay motivated about being intentional? How do you stay motivated as a dad in order to accomplish those tasks that you're seeking to fulfill?
Yeah. I think I can start with that. I think for me, looking around in our generation and the culture, you definitely see a lack of fathering. And I have a strong desire for my children and my family to be what I did not have, which was a strong father. And we're seeing the repercussions of that all, across the board in our culture right now. And we've seen it historically. And so for me, I'm inspired by the biblical examples you see. Paul tells Timothy that you've had many teachers, but you haven't had many fathers, right? That I alone have fathered you. And that involves time and intentionality, right? And so there's a journey that he and Timothy were on. And so for me, that motivates me. And I think about what I want my kids to be like, right? When they're parents, what will they parent like? What will that look like when they're older? And so those things motivate me, right? How does my fathering now impact their future, right? And, Proverbs says, train up a child in the way they should go. And when they are old, they will not depart from it. So that's the hope that I have. Is just when I look at the culture, I'm like, man, there's definitely a need for fathers. And it's almost as if we've bought into this lie in the culture that fathers aren't needed, that they're kind of like this, they're cute, like this little thing you can add, but not really necessary. So,
bro, it's almost like the mockery, like television and Hollywood plays. and the way they caricature the dad, like, Bart
Right.
Simpson, Homer Simpson.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like the moron dad. And I think we've talked about this a little bit, but every single dad in Hollywood's an imbecile. Like they are not prized. They're not
Right.
strong figures. They're not protect, other than in what is it, Taken? Yeah, you got this
Right.
unique dad that can do all these
Yes.
things, which yeah, and that's
Right.
how the three of us are.
Yes, that's what we are.
I will find.
We have a
Yeah. Anyway,
specific set of skills.
but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and like we want to reclaim and recapture what it is to be a dad and embrace that and walk in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I was actually on the phone with your kids the other day, just asking them, "Hey, how are Jermaine and Jeremy as your dad, and what can I do to be better than them?" And that just really keeps.
Oh, wow, that keeps you motivated.
That just really
I
keeps
thought
me
that gold
motivated to be.
microphone motivated
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, that helps, but also knowing I'm just a little bit better than my friends and
Oh.
being a dad. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Pray for it.
They said you guys are amazing, but I think what you guys said is true. I do think there is a lot of demotivators in culture. There's not a vision being casted for what a father should be. I think if
Mhm.
anything, it's kind of giving dads permission to not stay motivated, to delegate that responsibility to the mom or the teacher, or if they're a Christian, to the pastor. And so I think that's why we're so passionate about this issue, because like you said, Jeremy, we have to reclaim a vision for what a father should be and what a father could be.
Yeah.
For all of us, we've worked in youth ministry. And so when I was growing up, I think there was maybe a few kids in my school who the dad wasn't in the home or wasn't present. But I would say for the most part, like most of the kids I knew, the dad was at least in the home. And I've noticed over probably the last 10 years, I would say that's about 50-50. You can't even assume anymore that the dad's in the picture, that he cares, that he's involved. And I see all the pain that all these teenagers are carrying. Sometimes it's very obvious and they know that's the reason. And sometimes it's under the surface and they're carrying all this stuff and don't even know why. They don't know who they are, and they're depressed and they're cutting themselves and they're misbehaving in school, all because they don't have that voice of the father in their life. And then I think about my girls and I think about what type of father they need to live a fulfilling, overcoming, thriving life. And so as any dad, any parent, there's those moments where you're like, man, I don't know if I have the energy or the strength today. I'm tired. I'm worn out. And then I think about, what will my girls need in moments of crisis? What kind of dad will they need? What will they need to feel for me as a father? And so I think that gives me a lot of motivation, that extra push, that my girls don't have to sit in therapy for a long time because
Right.
I didn't give them what they needed. And it's really just a sacrifice, right? You're playing the long game with your kids and you're thinking, man, who are they going to be? What are they going to carry in the future? And I want what I deposit in them to be good, so that they have something to build on. They have a solid foundation to live on. So I think that's one of the biggest motivations for me. But I think also there's things that we just constantly need to feed on to keep our motivation. Just like anything else, you got to keep it in front of you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Man, I when you were talking, obviously you're talking about, the breakdown of the home, right? Where parents and even some of our listeners, you grew up and maybe like Jermaine, where dad is not around,
Right.
an absent father, and a lot of people obviously will have that experience. Nathan and I, we both cherish our relationship with our fathers. They were there. Even though they both worked, both of our dads worked, still making our games, still being with us, leading the family,
Yeah.
taking us to
Yeah.
church. So that's, two positive examples of good fathers. And so when you were talking, Nathan, I immediately thought of some of the kids that I had in my youth group, and even kids that I still know, whose dads were in the home, but they were literally the exact opposite of what we're talking about, being that intentional dad. Literally, they just want to go hunting, they want to go fishing, and they don't even take their kids on those trips. It's like, okay, you stay home with your mother, and it's like they have their own life. It's almost like the same reason they want kids is the reason they want a dog. It's just like, oh, that's nice. Like, let's have a little
It's cute.
puppy. Oh, that's
Right. It's
nice.
cute.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
have a kid. And it's like, beyond that, we forgot that about the motivating factor
Right.
of why we have kids, and that's a huge thing. I think for
Yeah.
me, one of the ways that I would say um, that motivates me is I get motivated honestly by people's stories. And honestly in some I guess you can say literature, books really do inspire me. And I've told this story like I had a dog and I wanted to raise him. I wanted to raise it right, and I knew that there's a window. And so I started reading books, and it was really inspiring for me. And I achieved my goal. And so, and I was actually rebuked by the Lord at one point where he told me I was being more intentional with my dog than my kids. And I was
Right.
like, oh my gosh. So immediately, like, I was really motivated by spending
Yeah.
time with Jesus. And one of the ways I was able to build on that and capitalize on that is through some great books that I've read. One of them is uh, Future Men by Doug Wilson. Incredible book.
Mm.
Another one called Family Shepherds by Vodi Bakum. I'm like, man, these guys are writing. Paul and David Tripp both have a lot of really good stuff on parenting. Even Paul Washer, if you look up some of his sermons. But so I would say, now that I'm saying that, I'd say a combination of books and sermons that I've listened to that have really inspired me in order to try and
Yeah.
be a good dad and still relight that fire under me. So let me ask this question. Speaking of fire, like obviously there are days, I mean, it can't be just me. If it's not the two of you, absolutely, there are some listeners out there who are struggling with this. You come home and you're like, I don't want to do this. Like, I wish my kids could just go somewhere else. Like, I don't want to like abandon them. I just don't want to be with them right now. I need some me time. I need some just time. Like, I had a stressful day at work, whatever it is. How do you guys, and you can't do that, then the struggle is like, I don't get the option. So how do you guys like overcome some of those like negative feelings, especially that your kids are young? How do you overcome some of those things? I have a couple of answers. I'm just kind of curious to
Yeah.
hear what y'all say.
I think parenting is a team sport,
Yeah.
thankfully. Um, and so me and Christina really rely on each other and are really good about communicating. Hey, I need a break, or I need a few hours. So can you kind of handle the kids? Typically, the way it works is when I get home, usually that's the point where she needs a break. I'm usually pretty good about kind of jumping in, and our girls are amazing, so it's not a big deal. But I think part of it is you guys as a spouse team working together. You know what I mean? And being honest about, hey, where are the challenges? Man, I need a break. Like there's sometimes where Christina's like, I'm just tired. Can you put the girls to bed? And I think the thing that motivates me in those moments when I am tired, and there is that thought in my head, man, the playoffs are on the NBA. Like
Right.
I want to watch that. I already have plans, is I think about, I'm never going to get this moment back again. And it's very possible that this could be a moment that to me seems insignificant, but to my kids can be something that changes their life. Because I think kids measure things differently, right? Like we value the big moments. We remember the thousands of dollars we paid for the family vacation, but they might just remember sitting there on the sidewalk, eating an ice cream cone and just talking about something simple.
Yep.
And I think you don't realize the deposits that you're making that seem insignificant that are actually going to reap the most major rewards for your kids in the future. And so I think part of it is having a plan, knowing like what your intention is, knowing your kids. Like I know what my girls enjoy doing. They love playing with their little Barbies. And I hate playing with those Barbies. So I'll just pick up the Kristoff from Frozen doll, and he'll fart a lot and make jokes, and the girls will think it's hilarious, or we'll go play a game outside. And in my head, I'm like, this is so dumb, but I know it's so meaningful for them. And then I think I also, my values drive me. So I'm looking for opportunities as a dad to pour into my daughters what I want them to know and who I want them to be. And so it's time spent for us, as followers of Jesus, like it's time in scripture, and we're talking about God, and I'm asking them questions, and I'm teaching them how to pray. And so like for me, that gives me life as a dad, because I feel like, okay, I'm discipling my kids in something that I want them to learn. And so that helps me. But I think just the biggest thing is like, where's your vision? You know, if you don't have vision of what you want your kids to do and who you want them to be, then you are going to get demotivated. But if you can see through the eyes of God what he's created them to be and go after that, then I think in those moments where you're tired, the vision is what keeps you motivated, because you're looking at the long term, not just how you feel in the moment.
Yeah. Wow. That's really good. So to recap what you just said, you're motivated in, like, obviously there's two different kinds of motivation. There's like this general motivation, like I need to be better. I need to like be able to push myself. But then there's like the daily grind motivation, like, man, I got to do this today, right now. And so one of the things that what you're saying that is inspiring you, or that's motivating you, that's putting that fire in you, in the moment of whether it's stress, whether it's just the normal routines, is they're going to remember these things. Like they're going to remember these small moments, even moments that you may forget about or you think's insignificant, playing with a doll. And then you're motivated day by day by what you want them to do and what you want to teach them, what you want them to do, and then what they are called to be. So to do and to be. I think that's really good, Nathan. I think that's great.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jermaine, what about you? Same question. Like in the day-to-day grind, like how it pushes you.
Well, I think it's a great question. I think, it's time, right? We know that, our children, their concept of time is different than our concept of time. For me, 30 minutes is like 30 minutes. It flies by. But for my children, 30 minutes is an eternity. I mean, just tell them to go stand in the corner, right? And put their nose in the corner, right? That's forever. Just for 2 or 3 minutes, it's forever for them. Or if they have to wait on some food or wait. We were at a restaurant. I have one of my businesses is we deliver bounce houses, commercial size, whatnot. And so we went as a family to do it together yesterday. And then we were at a restaurant getting food, and my oldest was like, "What's taking so long?" And we're like, "It's a restaurant. It's not fast food, right? They have to cook it. It's different." And so the way she processes time is so different than we process time.
My girls will say, "I've been doing this my whole life."
Wow. Yeah. But it feels like forever for them, right? Yeah. And it feels like forever. So that realization for me is like, okay, Jermaine, like this feels like forever for you, but for them, it's a blip. It's a blink of an eye. It's a moment. And so that motivates me to say, okay, remember to that Nathan was saying, we're sowing these seeds of time, right? This is how we communicate love to our children. And so that motivates me with my children as far as when I'm tired. But also I think about the biblical example. You have in Jewish culture, the bat mitzvah and the bar mitzvah. By the age of 12 to 13, they were considered adults. That phrase literally means a son or daughter of the law. And so, I've heard someone say that you tell your child, from ages like 0 to 2 or 3, you're telling them. Then from, 4 to 3 to 6 to, you're teaching them, you're telling them, then you're teaching them. And then, beyond that, 6 to 8, you're training them. And then 8 to 12, you are trusted. When they become 12 years old, you get to where you can trust them. And so those are the processes in development to where I'm telling them, I'm teaching them, right? Then I'm training them, and then that's where I'm teaching them to just to know how. And then trusting is like they now know how to reason. They now know how to discern truth, right? And so that helps me as well. Like, okay, Jermaine, you got these windows of time that you have to do these things in your kid. And some of them I'm late, some of them I'm just right, but yeah.
Okay, man. That's awesome. Amen. I would say for me, one of the things that and again, none of us are perfect at this, and I would definitely not
speak for yourself.
I have arrived.
Speak for myself.
I was talking about Jermaine, not me.
Whatever.
But for me, I try and motivate my kids by my energy and my desire and passion. And it's like if they see me apathetic in my relationship with them, they also will be apathetic in their relationship with me. And it's like, so, I will reap with interest what I sow into them. I know that you reap not only what you sow, but where you sow it. And so for me, I do my best to be intentional. In those times where I'm tired, let's say it like that. I'm spent, and honestly, I just started working out, trying to get my muscles like Jermaine's. And so, dude, sometimes I come home and I'm extremely tired, bro. And I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything. And my kids just want me to lift them and flip them. My kids are very, active like y'all's. And I'm like, man, how do I keep doing this? It's because I want like an appropriate engagement level with them. And I try to do my best to keep pushing that. And I'm like, I don't want to be a lazy dad, but I want to be an interactive dad, to where they know they can come to me, we can talk, we can play, we can be serious, we can have even the tough conversations. And so I want to always be there, like you're saying, both for moments and then to teach them, Nathan, to who they are called to be, and also the informational side of it. So those are the things that I would say that I try and do.
Yeah, and the more kids you have, the more challenging it becomes, right? Because they all, Jeremy, how many you have? 5?
Well, I want to turn.
8?
I want to turn.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, man, I have 5.
And so to those out there listening, finding that time, that time is together, but also individually. As my kids get older, I realize they need individual time. And that can be challenging. Yep. You can be demotivated because you're like, I'm giving it to, there's so many. How do I? But that comes with that communication with your wife, like we were saying earlier. And also just, what we do is we intentionally, I don't know if it was, I forgot what it is. We take a different child each week, and we like, okay, this week is going to be, we spend time with them together, but this week we're going to take Alana, for example, and she's going to get to stay up late, a little bit later, and we're going to give her some time.
Nice.
And then we also plan these little date things for each, but we've had to space it out, because in the beginning I was like, I'm trying to do them all, and it was like herding cats, it was like great chaos, and I was more stressed out. I was stressed out, like I failed. That was terrible. Right. And I just realized I don't have to do it all at once. So just creating that time in those spaces for each child individually.
Yeah, that's good. That's
good. Awesome. Well, listen, as we are wrapping this up, I just want to say, hey, thank you guys for sharing. Thank you all, especially you all who are listening and you've stayed with us during this journey. We hope that you also will find motivating factors in our experiences and our story. And I would just encourage you, if you've been blessed by any of this, if any of this has touched you and you've been edified, encouraged by these things, I would just ask you to share it if you don't mind. And wherever you're listening, we're going to be on all major platforms, YouTube, as you know, Spotify, Apple. And listen, like it, subscribe, share. We are going to be back. We have a great bit of content here coming up, especially in the next season. I got one more that we're going to be wrapping up with next week. And we look forward to hearing from all of you in the future.
Peace out.